in the last 10 days. It's a nightmare. First of all, do I pronounce your name Hugh?
It's Híu, yeah.
Hugh.
Close
Okay,
enough.
cool. All right, close enough. So first of all, I really appreciate how patient you've been waiting for this. When we finish today, I will reset your subscription so the 3 month starts today. Okay, because it's been
Sure.
too long that you've had to wait. So just before we start, actually, I remember that we're aiming for a really high score, but I can't remember what score have you did you actually get recently? 7.5?
A 7 in writing, yeah.
7. Okay. All right, cool. Okay. So the purpose of today is really more for me than it is for you. It's just really for me to sort of see where we're starting from, the places where you're kind of lacking so we can push you up. It's essentially so I
Right.
can sort of understand our best plan moving forward to increase your score in the quickest amount of time,
Yeah.
essentially. All right. So I never look at the first assessments before I do the marking so that you can sort of see in live time. That said, I did actually have a quick look as I was copying and pasting them. So uh, I do have a couple of thoughts already, but let's have a look. I'll just stick the question in.
Yeah.
And just feel free. We'll just mark it together. I'll tell you what I think. You're welcome to ask
Yeah.
questions. Okay, it's
I mean,
just,
I can talk
yeah.
through, my thought process, and if you certain parts you don't
Well,
understand.
okay, yeah. Let's see. I'll see how I get on, and then I'll ask you if I need
Yeah.
anything. Okay. In many countries, university is seen as the key to successful future employment. So some suggest that the cost of studying there should be removed. Okay, so some suggest that the cost of studying there is a bit strange because we're not talk there would be one particular university.
Hmm.
Um, you'd have to use some sort of like more general reference, like in one or at one, because we're not talking about a specific
Right.
university. Despite benefits from the proposal. Okay, that is a poor clause. Although um, we do need a noun after despite, there's just not enough information in that clause. You'd have to say something like, despite the possible benefits. I think you'd have to even add a bit more. Like
Be
she'd
more
have to say,
specific, right? Yeah.
yeah,
So I've
despite the
been watching some of
benefits
your videos, and
that might
I,
stem.
I learned
Yeah.
that it need to be a little bit more specific, right, in the introduction.
Well, I think really what you want to do in the introduction is that you want to specifically state whether or not you agree or disagree with this. So what I would say is I actually like your first sentence. Um, in many countries is so I like that first sentence until that point because that would give a really nice like that would introduce the topic, right?
Right.
And then I would just say rather than having the some suggest there, because nobody there to begin with, there's nobody suggesting that there. It doesn't say some people believe, it's just a statement. So I would just directly, I disagree that, I would just say that you disagree with the
Yeah.
statement that the cost of studying uh, at one should be removed for all students for two reasons. I don't know, the cost of studying should be removed. It's a bit of a long phrase for free, but it's still fine. But I think I would just basically, introductions don't really carry any points. All you
Hmm.
want to make sure that you've got in your introduction is you've made the topic of the essay clear and you've made it really clear if that you agree or, for this type of essay that you agree or disagree with the statement.
Okay.
I would, I would don't think you need the some suggest. You don't need the possible benefits. It's not terrible. I think your introduction is actually pretty good. But I instead of saying I believe some students, I would still make it it's better to say I disagree that it should be free.
So more direct with the language, maybe.
Yes. So definitely really state directly if you agree or disagree with the statement at the beginning. Okay.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so then I came down. Now, this is where I did actually spend a little bit of time looking at your first body paragraph. So what you've done is you said the benefit of waiving university tuition fee. Okay. Fees are countable, right? So you can have
Right.
a fee or fees. So if you ever have a countable noun in a sentence, it has to either be plural or have a article. You can never just have a countable noun in the singular form on its own. So you'd either going to have to say the benefit of waiving a university tuition fee if you want to emphasize that it's one, or
say fees. Right?
Yeah, or have it as a plural. Yeah. Normally we would say the benefits or the main benefit is clear, I would say. Okay. We're going to come back to this is clear. In many countries, the cost of a university.
One of the major benefits.
Yeah. So a cost of, you can't just say of a university, you'd have to say a university education is simply too high for many students, especially ones from low income families. Good. That's not bad, that ones. I would say we usually say especially those instead of especially ones.
Okay.
There's not necessarily actually a reason for that. It's just like a collocation. Those from low income families. This lack of funding strips them of access to specialised higher education knowledge that would be useful for increasing their future employment opportunities. Okay. Okay. So look, you're obviously a really good student, right? Your language here is great. Okay. There's not any language issues. I really like what you're doing. The problem I've got is that you start this paragraph by really offering the arguments for the opposite view, right? Before you suddenly, in the middle of the paragraph, go, da-da, no. Like, actually, this is not true. I think you need to be a bit careful. I think we can do this, but we need to make our own opinion a little bit clearer. So I think what we probably want to do is, if I'm going to keep what you've written, but I'm going to write it in a way that makes your opinion more consistent. Because if you write as your topic sentence, the main benefit of waiving university tuition is clear. If that is your topic sentence, I just expect to read in this paragraph arguments for why university education should be free. So I think what we'd want to do instead, because as well, you here say another argument against free education. So clearly you're arguing against it, right?
Right.
I think you might want to be a bit more clever in the way you do it. So you might want to have a topic sentence that says something like, first, the main argument in favor of free education is simply not true, or is simply not cogent, or do you know what I mean? It's simply not valid. And then you might want to say, instead of just saying the main benefit, many argue. So by saying many argue, you're making it clear that this is not your argument, right? So we could say many argue that we've got many, that we might have to just move in many countries now. Many argue that the cost of university education in many countries is simply too high. We'll change that for most students, right? So we've just got too many, especially those from low income families. So we'll say many argue that the cost, then we'll say they believe. If we just add this in, it's basically making it clear that I'm
It's not
offering
my
not my own.
opinion.
Yeah, this like is however, and then when you get to this, however,
That's when my
it's
argument
not.
starts. Right?
Yeah, it's not a surprise because I've already said I don't believe that this is not valid. So, sorry,
Yeah, I got you.
I think I think that making those small changes, just changing that
Topic
so
sentence.
that that topic sentence, so we're saying, look, the main arguments are just not valid. That now is an incredibly good paragraph. And I would say, we are talking about the differences between, you know, sevens, eights, and nines. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think
That's
what
what it
you
takes,
wrote
huh?
was, yeah, it's tiny things. It's not like we don't need to make huge changes, but we just need to make everything very,
It's
so we've
coherent in
got
a
a
way.
top,
Yeah.
it's coherent. So we've got a topic sentence that actually gives my argument rather than just starting with the opposite argument.
Right.
We've added just some really simple, many argue, just to make it clear that that's not mine before we then come back.
Yeah.
The only other thing I would say is this is just a general thing. Almost always in English, if you're adding of them or of with any pronoun, so like of them, of us, of it, or for, you can usually remove that from a sentence and it
Okay.
just makes the coherence better. It's like what's it
Yeah.
called?
Maybe writing in more concise way, huh?
It's writing in a more concise way. Exactly. It's what we call ellipsis. So really, really high level coherence and cohesion is removing phrases that don't need to be repeated. Yeah. But there's some really great vocabulary here, great grammar structures, great argument. You've extended it. I think you've done a lot of things really well. Okay. Again, I think that there's a lot of good stuff happening in this paragraph. So what I would say is a lot of agree disagree questions in IELTS offer some sort of suggestion, right? So essentially they include this word should. So you get a lot of things like, all parents should attend a parenting course or something should happen. Whenever you've got a question that's got this should, what that's basically telling you is that this is like some kind of suggestion, essentially. Like this is not something which is necessarily happening anywhere in the world, but this is something IELTS thinks is a good idea. So, because it's a suggestion, we probably don't want to always use the present simple in our answer because the present simple is for something which is already true. So
Need hedging, maybe.
we need a bit of hedging. We probably need to use things like would or possible. So another argument for all is, here you might want to say something like the possible change. And you might also, the possible change that may occur. I mean, these are sort of extra
Yeah.
words, but they're adding to that feeling of like, this might happen, right?
Right.
In my view, when a product is free, people often take it for granted. So that's all good because you're making a general statement, which is true. In other words, students who attend university for free may not, right? So that's good, right? May not and even fail classes thinking that they can retake the courses free of charge at any time. This is I think, where because of this, students do not take, but we're not talking about now, are we? We're talking about if this
Right.
happens. Do you know what I mean? So because of this, we might want to, students may not take in the valuable knowledge that a university education, which
Would defeat
it would defeat, yeah,
a
the
possibility.
original, yeah, which would, I'd actually think, yeah, which would defeat the original purpose of going there. So again, tiny, tiny changes,
Right.
but just make it feel more like we're actually addressing the question of this should happen rather than it is happening.
I feel like sometimes I just
Great.
have some really strong opinions about, let's say, a free education or suggestion like this. So I often use stronger language, you know.
Yeah. So you can, I mean, you could, if you weren't sure, you, instead of saying possible, then you could say the definite change that would occur.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. Yeah.
Sorry. Um, Now, if you're going to change to the main reason, I think it sounds a bit weird, but you're
Need a
going to want some sort
transition
of
signal.
contrast. Yeah. And because it's now the main reason, we're going to say, however. So, however, the main reason, because it was sort of saying, look, forget that. This is the most important. Cost of running university. Okay. Whenever you use an of
The constant.
after a noun, yeah, you're going to have to use the before the noun. And because you've got costs, that's underlined because it's thinking it. So you can say the cost of is high or the costs of are high. Yeah. In that sentence, I don't think it matters if you have the singular or the plural, actually. Okay, good. If you're going to use including, which I love, just put a comma before including. Okay. I have a real problem with as well as just in general. Okay. It's a weird phrase, and I still don't really know how to teach it, even after 25 years. But basically, it's not a direct synonym of and. So if you want to use it in a list, you can, but you can only use as well as if you've already used and before. So you could say including expenses for building maintenance. Right. So this is a bit confusing, actually, your list, because you've got building maintenance, you're using building as
Or
an
maybe I need a
adjective.
possessive or something. The maintenance
Well,
of the building.
you're not using build as a verb there, are you? You're
Right.
using so I think what you probably let's just put this in yellow so we can see. So I think you'd have to say the maintenance, oh, I've spelled that wrong. Maintenance of buildings. So that's the first one. You've got modern facilities. Well,
It's not specific.
it's not really very, I mean, what does it mean? Like, I think you need some sort of verb there, don't you? So you could say maybe we'll have a list of gerunds. So maintaining buildings. But the problem is, I think you have to providing modern facilities, yeah? Right. So if you want to use as well as, we'd have to say for maintaining buildings and providing modern facilities. And now we can say as well as, because you're kind of moving to something different now, aren't you? Because you're going to
Right.
salaries, right? Which is fine. Maintaining buildings as well as, I don't know, paying competitive. You might want to say something like that. Good. So basically, we want to make sure that our list it's got the same things in it. So because you've got building, maintenance, modern
Right.
facilities need something. So it's better to have
Yeah.
maintaining buildings, providing in facilities, as well as paying.
Right. So keep it consistent, huh? Parallel, for
Yes.
sure.
So that's what we call parallelism.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you can just add, when if we're looking to get up to like an 8 or a 9 for Lexis, I think you could get that. Adding those little adjectives in, like instead of just saying
Mm.
salaries, competitive salaries, providing facilities, having those sort of collocations.
Right.
Right, without much need for students' tuition. I think we'd say fees there. Taxes might need to be raised. Oh. Mm. Good. I almost want, however, and almost want like a little transition phrase. I love given that. Given that is one of my favorite. That's a really lovely way. Given the high number of universities, the amount required. I don't think we want can, remember, because we're talking about should. We want to stay in that kind of, because we're talking about a suggestion,
Right.
right? Could be possibly taking a toll on the economy as a whole in the long run. That's for those who can afford you. Hmm. I think for those, I don't know if we need the for those. I think you could just make that. There's no harm in just adding just thus.
Should do so. Yeah.
Yeah. Should do so to prevent cost escalating. I
Escalating.
mean, you've got to imagine that the examiner is basically. I mean, I make this joke in the course, but it's kind of true. You want to imagine that the examiner's a bit stupid. So the more you can just outline stuff, you don't want to outline things which are really obvious, but just, you know, why to, you never want to have a sentence that the examiner could ask why,
Right.
basically. Um, so what I it might a gen I mean, I don't know how long did this take you?
I took it under test condition. Yeah. So exactly
You
4 minutes.
did?
I didn't
Okay,
use any grammar. I tried to turn off the grammar checker to see if
good.
I actually make any
Yeah.
mistakes.
Okay. I mean, what I would say is in general is for someone like you, I think we need to, what I would probably say is initially, is it might be better for you to have two really in-depth paragraphs where you go into a lot of detail in an argument than have three less detailed paragraphs.
Mm.
Now, it might be if you've already written this in exam conditions, I actually think your three paragraphs are pretty good. So you might want to actually, if you can write three really good paragraphs, that's even better, right? But I would say if you're not sure about a third idea, it's better to have two really strong paragraphs than a third one that's quite weak. Yeah, the idea of me really they were not able to pay. Huh. Mm. Okay. Okay, you're doing the right things here. You're summarizing your arguments, right?
Yeah.
The only issue that I've got is that this it is fine. that goes to the university fee, right?
Yeah.
This it,
Should be this.
well, is towards education, right?
Right.
It's something completely different. So I don't think, and changes in attitude towards, I mean, you literally just going to have to write higher education there.
Right.
Because because although that's university, it's not, it's university fee, it's different.
Right.
Good. And all I want you to do here,
Make it clear again. Huh?
just boom, make sure you've got that agree, disagree. Because part of my job as the examiner is I need to check that you've got a clear opinion. So as soon as I just see, I agree, I disagree, boom, I'm like, great. You know, what you want is for me not to think.
Right.
I just want to read your essay and go, yep, yep. Oh, good idea. Yep, yep, yep. Well extended. Yep, yep. I am already doing that for almost everything in your essay. Okay. If we look back, I mean, language wise, I think your language is very, very, very good. The only issue what's going on there? I don't know. The only issue, and I mean, it's not a huge issue, but the one thing I think we need to just be careful of is high level referencing, right? So that university, it's not there because it's not particular and it should be at one, especially those, we've got this it here that was wrong. So I would say in terms of language, I think you're not, I mean, you're very, very, very close to an 8 here. Okay. But I can send you some, I've been meaning to make a lesson for a long time, actually, on really high level referencing, like one, those. I've got a lot of things that I've collected and I can send them to you. The exercises that you can do to practice. Okay, so just things like, that it was a big mistake, right? But one, those. Once we fix that, I think that your coherence and cohesion is quite good. Maybe just adding the however there, but I mean, these are tiny things, right? I would also say, though, that the changes we made, we want a topic sentence that really characterizes our argument in the paragraph, right? So, saying that the main argument is not valid, that's a much better topic sentence. So, I think your actual task achievement is already very, very close to an 8. Okay. You had great ideas, all of which were well developed, and you included a good example. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of really good stuff. Just just to begin with, just make sure you've got that word agree in the introduction and conclusion. And yeah, just those little changes that we made to the beginning of that paragraph, just to make it clear that it was not our argument, right? Really good. If the question says should, remember that we are considering a suggestion, so that might just change our language slightly. Okay. I think your Lexis is very strong.
I think the problem when I'm not writing, directly like that in the introduction and then the conclusion is because I've been sort of influenced by some of the essays from Pauline Collin. Is maybe her style of writing. Yeah.
I like Pauline. Pauline's really good. I just think what you want to do is you want to write for every examiner.
Yeah, yeah. That's
And
what I
so
get
you want to
from
do, yeah, it's like you want to do something so that nobody can go, well, you know what I
yeah,
mean? So it's like if you
yeah,
just
I
do it, I
got
mean,
you.
and I think the introductions and conclusions in IELTS are just performative, really.
Yeah.
Like they have to do a function, and if they've done the function,
Mhm.
it's all good. Um, for the grammar, what have we got? So we've got just the fee. So it's just a few kind of like the singular, the plural, but I mean, so many error-free sentences. I mean, I can't see even, there's an article. I mean, I think you'd have to be an 8. I think
Yeah,
someone would
from
have.
the breakdown score that I got for most recent exam, yeah, I did get
Yeah,
an 8 in lexical and in grammar, but a 7
I
in the
think
task
I
response and
think
coherence.
I think you're a strong 8. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, the thing is that to get up to a 9, it's kind of hard because you've almost got to kind of be error-free, really, which doesn't really make any sense because a 9 at IELTS is like C1, C2. So, you should be able to make mistakes. But I think what happens is that there's a certain amount of drag up. So if you've got an essay which has got incredible arguments and is really on topic and has got maybe a couple of errors, you're more likely, what I'm saying is if these scores are sort of 8s and 9s, it's easier to score 8 and 9 in task response and coherence and cohesion than it is for lexical resource and grammar.
Mhm.
So if we can get the argument's really good, everything's well, changed, you can make a couple of tiny errors and you might still get scored a 9 because the whole essay gets lifted by the arguments. But it's hard. It's not
Yeah,
easy. But I think we can get you to an 8. I really think we
yeah.
can. Um,
I think I would be
so
happy with an 8, yeah. And then another problem is probably task 1 is an area.
right, well, task 1 is my favorite part. And actually, task 1, if you're willing to put in a bit of effort, you can become so good at it.
Yeah,
So it's
so
just, yeah,
it's always about the task achievement. I always get maybe a 6 in task achievement and a higher
no.
score in maybe
Okay.
like
We're not gonna if I don't know. So when we start doing it, if you can we're not gonna be getting a 6 for task achievement. Or I'm gonna kick your ass if you get a 6 for task achievement, because we should be able to get better because there are ways to find the key features, there are ways to analyze the charts. Actually, as well. So do you teach on a Friday?
no.
No. So what I might start running, I might start doing some live lessons for task 1 in the next couple of weeks. So I might wait until you've got there and then I'll run the live lessons because I haven't done them for a while, but they're really good. So when you're sort of close, once you've started task 1, so we'll probably do the first 3 essays and then we'll start doing task 1 and task 2 together. Although you can start task 1 now if you want to. Um, but once you've done enough of the lessons, I'll start doing some live lessons for task 1. Because I think, honestly, like looking at the way you've written here and the logic and the way you've organized your arguments really clearly, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to get an 8 for task response. No, task achievement, easily. It's just logic.
Yeah,
So I will look forward to teaching you that.
yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I
That's
would be happy
okay.
with an 8. Yeah, and then work on test 1 as well.
I think the way I would look at it is an 8 is a really good solid target and it's achievable.
Yeah,
And if you get to the point where you're able to get an 8, you understand what you're doing. On a good day with the right question, you can
yeah,
get an 8.5, right? So there's a bit of luck, but I would hope that no matter what the question, we would be able to get you to a clear 8 and then a 7.5 in task 1, so an 8 overall. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Okay, so I will send this back to you. I'm going to ask you to watch 4, 5, 6, and 8 in the essay course. That's going to teach you how to write a discuss both sides essay. Please, can you only have two ideas in each paragraph? In the lesson, I talk about having three ideas in body paragraph two. That's a bad idea for you. It's going to mean you write too much. So just have two ideas in each,
Yeah.
or two arguments in each paragraph. So when you finish watching those lessons, maybe also just have a quick look at lesson 3 in the grammar course, the articles lesson. I think that might, if you haven't already watched that, that
I
might
did
help.
watch that.
Okay, cool. And then I'm going to send you 3 discuss both sides questions. You can choose one, write it, email it to me. I'll mark it. If you want to start task 1 at the same time, you're actually very welcome to.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Would you like?
if I have time, I would probably do that.
Okay, so for task 1, I think you need to watch lessons. If you want to start task 1, you're going to have to watch. Please watch lessons 1 to 13, and then email me for it. You can watch lessons 1 to 13. Some of them are not so important, but anyway, they're shorter, the lessons in task 1. Once you've done those, email me and I'll send you a difficult question. Good. Have you got any questions, Hugh?
No, I feel like I've learned so much. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I
good.
mean, it's
That's
like
nice.
because the thing is, I've been taking the test a few times, right? And I've just been
Mm.
self-practicing. I've never really taken any course before. So it's just basically what I have, you know. Now it's actually the first time I decided to to join a course to
But I mean, you've
seriously
done a
improve. Yeah.
great job for yourself doing it yourself, I think. So that's really cool. So, most people who self-study, they come and I spend a long time trying to help them forget what they self-studied. But
Yeah.
you've actually done a really good job.
Yeah, I think so for some
Excuse me.
students I feel like if I'm helping them to maybe reach a band 6, then I'm feeling pretty confident. But some for higher
Mm.
level students, they want to reach a band 7, then I feel like I need to be higher level, like maybe reaching an 8 easily or comfortably, so that I would feel comfortable
Yeah.
at least helping them with.
Well, I would also say then that the good thing is that like there's almost two things then in the course, which is getting you to an 8, but also just understanding the basic principles that will get your students to a 7.
Yeah.
And they're almost not necessarily the same thing. So, as you're like working through the course, I would be thinking, okay, well, what do I need to teach my students? So basic things like introductions, conclusions, topic sentences, clear. Do you know what I mean? So that there's a clear argument.
Mhm.
So pass that on to your students. But then for you, because you're the next level up,
Yeah.
it's about us really having incredible arguments and the extra language and all that sort of stuff. But I think you would be a good teacher. So I'm really happy. Well done.
Yeah. Thank you.
No worries. Okay, I will send this back to you now. I've just extended